Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2019 movie titled Cold Blood. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. In the opening scene, we are introduced to a young woman named Melody, who navigates the pristine, snow-covered countryside on her snowmobile, the landscape a breathtaking canvas of white glistening under the winter sun. As she speeds through the tranquil beauty of the snowy woodland, her adventure takes a sudden turn when her snowmobile collides with a towering tree, sending her tumbling into the soft, cold snow. Disoriented and injured, she finds herself isolated in the heart of the serene yet unforgiving wilderness. Blood stained her entire body as she cried out in agony, struggling to pull herself forward. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Henry, a skilled hitman residing in a secluded cottage in the countryside. Embracing a tranquil life amidst nature, he spends his free time fishing. It is during one of these peaceful moments that he spots a wounded woman making her way toward his cabin. Without hesitation, he rushes to help her inside. 2 months prior, Henry found himself in a spacious apartment, engaged in an intense workout as he awaited the opportune moment to complete his mission. Following his training session, he visited a spa where he coldly executed a man named Kessler. The tranquility of the spa shattered when another patron discovered the lifeless body and began to scream. Seizing the moment, Henry slipped into the locker room and retrieved a backpack brimming with cash. The Washington State Memorial later hosted a funeral for Kessler, drawing the attention of his grieving family, who enlisted the help of Kappa, a dedicated police officer, to track down the elusive killer. Kappa, under the supervision of his superior Davis, received only rudimentary information. They lacked any concrete evidence or fingerprints. Davis reminded him that, according to protocol, the murderer often attends the victim's funeral. Kessler, a millionaire, raised Kappa's curiosity about how someone so wealthy ended up in such a place. Kessler's backstory revealed he hailed from New York. In pursuit of leads, Kappa met with Briguler to discuss Kessler's potential enemies. Briguler cryptically remarked that industrialists often attract adversaries, prompting Kappa to view him as a possible suspect. During their conversation, Briguler mentioned that Kessler had a descendant named Charlie Kessler. The implications of Kessler's death were significant, particularly for those who stood to gain from it. Meanwhile, Charlie's mother, who had lost her memories, remained confined to a mental institution for a decade. Eager to track down Charlie, Kappa learned from Briguler that his address was confidential. Adding another layer of complexity to the investigation, Briguler noted that Charlie had been in Paris at the time of the murder. As Kappa prepared to leave, Briguler couldn't resist a parting jab about the modest size of Kappa's office. The scene transitions to Melody, who packs her belongings and moves out of her apartment, aware of a man waiting for her outside. Catching a glimpse of him through the window, she decides to leave the house. The man, sitting in a car, soon follows her inside. With a sense of urgency, he loads his gun before entering the house, only to find it eerily deserted. Meanwhile, Melody is seated in a taxi, where she hands the driver a substantial amount of money to take her to a specific location. In another part of town, Briguler answers a phone call in his office but abruptly disconnects when he realizes the line is insecure, suggesting he has something to conceal. As Melody journeys to the frigid mountains, she purchases a snowmobile, paying a hefty price to the owner. Meanwhile, Kappa sits in a restaurant, asking the waitress for something special, only to be met with her dismissive response that there's nothing out of the ordinary. Just then, Davis arrives and requests a meeting while the waitress serves him bread with an unmistakably curt demeanor. Melody rides a snowmobile and pauses for a brief respite. The man who had lent her the snowmobile follows her, offering assistance, but she firmly declines and instructs him to turn back. He tries to inform her about a nearby inn, but she dismisses his words, focused instead on studying her map before continuing her journey. In the present moment, Henry suddenly notices an injured woman approaching and quickly brings her into his cabin. Later, Melody awakens in Henry's bed, disoriented. Henry carefully uses scissors to extract a splinter from her wound, but as he does so, she winces in pain and tries to stop him. Despite her discomfort, he persists, administering first aid to treat her injuries. As evening falls, Henry goes hunting and returns with a deer, which he takes to the basement. He prepares a meal for Melody, explaining that she needs protein to aid her recovery, otherwise, her bones won't heal properly. He informs her that for the next 6 weeks, the ice will be gone from the route, making it impossible to leave without a boat. After saying goodnight, he settles down to sleep. The next morning, while cooking breakfast, Melody introduces herself. She shares that she moved here for a year to escape the chaos of city life, seeking solace in the snow-covered landscape. However, Henry is unimpressed. He had come to this remote place to avoid being disturbed by others. Although she plans to leave soon, she realizes that the path is impassable and her health is too fragile for the journey back. For Henry to offer his help, he needs a compelling reason to do so. At the police station, Davis receives a ballistic report from Kessler regarding the ice bullet, which reveals its rare application in criminal activity. Intrigued, he delves deeper into the profiles of individuals known to use such ammunition and uncovers two names. The first is incarcerated, serving a 5-year sentence, while the second, a sniper for U.S. forces, was deployed in Iraq at the time of the murder. As the weight of this information settles in, Davis informs Kessler about his impending transfer and Kappa's forthcoming promotion. The farewell is bittersweet. Parting ways with Kappa proves to be an emotional challenge for Davis. Kappa exchanges heartfelt goodbyes before leaving the office. Meanwhile, Melody is haunted by a nightmare in which Henry is shooting her. Startled awake, she finds Henry beside her, who assures her that he will train her to ensure she can leave the house as soon as possible. He grabs a gun and makes his way to the scene of the accident, where he retrieves her purse and is struck by the sight of blood everywhere. Attempting to rise for water, Melody collapses to the floor. When Henry returns, he presses her for details about the accident, sensing that she is withholding information. She admits, "I lost control." Henry warns her that a wolf has tasted her blood and will inevitably come for her. Observing her exhaustion, he inspects her bag and brings it back to the cabin. He checks her temperature and discovers a piece of wood still embedded in the wound near her abdomen. With steady hands, he removes the splinter and gives her alcohol to ease her pain, demonstrating both his concern and determination to help her heal. The man searching for Melody arrives at the snowmobile shop and shows the shopkeeper her picture. Initially reluctant to share information, the shopkeeper eventually gives him an address after receiving payment. Back at the cottage, Henry tends to Melody's injuries, and she thanks him. He admits he's not used to saving lives and offers her water, noting that her bag contains no mobile phone, hinting she wants to remain hidden. He goes fishing while she changes clothes and steps outside. He explains that he lives there to escape pollution and noise, then leads her back inside to eat. He mentions they will soon trek to a safe location for her. Noticing the book Art of War, she asks about his lack of other books, mistakenly thinking his wife took them, but he clarifies he has neither a wife nor books. Their conversation turns to war. The next day, as he chops wood, she follows him, intrigued by his serious demeanor. He clarifies that he's not a mountaineer but has adapted to this life. At night, he changes her bandages and applies healing herbs, explaining his medical knowledge comes from personal experience and self-reliance. He then asks her again why she is there. The person following Melody arrives at a snowy cafe and orders coffee. Meanwhile, Kappa visits the psychiatric facility to see Kessler's wife. The nurse advises him to tread carefully in conversation, as disputes can trigger her loss of control. When he meets her, they discuss memories. She finds them remarkable yet fears losing them, asserting that past events no longer inflict pain. She doesn't remember Kessler but has a vague awareness of him. Although Kappa offers her a bracelet, she declines, knowing she will forget its significance by evening. He speaks of her child, Charlie, revealing she only remembers giving birth to a daughter, surprising Kappa. Meanwhile, Melody checks her luggage and retrieves a pistol and ammunition, recalling someone teaching her to shoot. She assembles the gun with memories of training in control, balance, and stillness, preparing to assassinate Henry. Spotting him on a bench, she fires but hits a grass statue instead. Henry appears behind her, gun drawn, learns her intentions, and punches her in the face, sending her down. Kappa returns to the office and receives a call from Davis, who reveals that Kessler's daughter arrived on the day of the funeral, but there's no further evidence. She's paying in cash, with no return policy, leading Kappa to suspect she's found the perpetrator and is preparing to kill him, though Davis disagrees. Meanwhile, Henry confronts Melody, pinning a wooden log on her legs and asking her identity. She boldly states she knows him and has come to kill him as Kessler's daughter. After Henry removes the log, a man pursuing Melody finds a picture of her in his wallet and shares her location. Melody recalls her conversations with Brigular during the burial, expressing sorrow over never having met her father and feeling neglected despite her attempts to connect with him. Malcolm, who is also present, follows her through the snow. When she tries to call for help using her snowmobile communicator, the storm renders it useless. Back at the cabin, she confronts Henry about her father's murder and questions why he hasn't killed her yet. He reveals that an unknown man contracted him to kill Kessler and also has a second contract for Melody. Shocked, she asks for the phone number of the person who hired him, but a storm suddenly erupts. The storm shattered the windows of the cottage, unleashing chaos within. Kappa stumbled upon crucial evidence, but just as he attempted to access the internet for more information, the power abruptly cut out. In desperation, he reached out to Davis for help, revealing that Brigular had orchestrated the entire situation and emphasizing the urgency of locating Kessler's daughter. He tried to contact Brigular for details about Melody, but was met with resistance. Brigular cited a binding contract that forbade him from sharing any information about her. Determined, Kappa discovered a lead at Orville and set off. Meanwhile, Malcolm left the hotel, racing on a snowmobile in search of Melody. Inside the cabin, Melody confided in Henry that she sometimes struggles to remember that he was her father's killer, but she knows she must keep that truth at the forefront of her mind to seek her revenge. Suddenly, gunfire erupted, striking the cabin's light. Hearing Malcolm call out for her, Henry dashed outside, armed and ready to defend himself. In a panic, Malcolm turned to flee, but Henry caught up to him and fatally attacked him with a blade. Returning to the cabin, Henry was met with Melody's horrified gaze as she spotted blood on his weapon. Overwhelmed by fear, she dropped the wooden log and struck Henry in the head, sending him crashing to the ground before sprinting away. Kappa and Davis approached the cottage and noticed a snowmobile parked nearby. The ominous sound of gunfire drew them closer to investigate. Meanwhile, Henry continued firing his gun as he fled, prompting Kappa and Davis to pursue the noise. In a harrowing moment, Henry confronted Melody, his gun trained on her with lethal intent. She braced herself for the finality of death, but instead, he fired at a wolf poised to pounce beside her. Just then, Kappa and his friend burst onto the scene, swiftly ending Henry's life with a gunshot, saving Melody from certain doom. As Henry collapsed, blood pooled in the snow beneath him, a stark reminder of the violence that had just unfolded. They escorted Melody back to the cottage, where she stumbled upon a number scrawled by Henry and the scarf she had worn for days. In the aftermath of the chaos, she felt a profound mix of relief and newfound determination, ready to face whatever came next. Thank you for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.